Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day, night, wherever you're watching and listening. I hope you're watching this live. We already have about 80 people watching live. And listen, guys, we got a good show for you tonight. We have a dual panel tonight, and I think a great representation of pro anglers from different eras. And joining us tonight, Bill Lowen, Kyle Patrick, joining us on the show. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to be a rookie in the pro leagues. And can't wait to hear these guys' perspective on this topic. As always, Ike Live is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Head over to abugarcia.com and check out some of their stuff. In fact, the Ike Series 3.0 is now out there. Head over to Tackle Warehouse and get those. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation. If you want to find out how to get kids fishing, head over to the IkeFoundation.org. Get some information on how to get those kids started. After I have a coughing fit. All right, let's get these guys on. I know they're both traveling the country. You would think these guys get a break, right? The elite season's over. You'd think to yourself, oh man, surely they're at home relaxing. They're hunting. They're doing other hobbies and activities. No, these guys are out working. Let's get them on the line right now. Bill Lowen and Kyle Patrick. What's up, guys?
How are you, bud?
How you doing? Kyle, how you doing?
Good. Very good.
All right, let's start. I just mentioned before you guys came on, there's a myth that once the elite season's over, once, the last term of the year is checked off, that you guys just sit home and eat bonbons the whole time. Is that true or false?
I would love it, honestly. It sounds pretty good. But no,
Look,
it's not. I'm learning that quickly. I'm sure Bill's known that for a long time. But 3 years ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, oh gosh, I can't wait till I get to the elites. And I just, when the season's over, now I can just hang around, fish for fun. But you learn pretty quickly that's not the case.
Yeah, that's for sure. We're going so much that when we do sit around for a week or so, I almost feel like I'm doing something wrong. So it's like, as you know, Ike, it never stops. It's typically daylight to dark every day, regardless if we're tournament fishing or if we're at home. There's always something to be done.
Yeah, and good examples, real life examples of what you guys are doing. Bill, you're at a writers event, I think a hummingbird event, and you're down at Lake Lanier. And that's a big thing that, I think a lot of guys assume that the sponsors only want the logo on the boat, the logo on the truck, this and that, but they actually, they make you work, right? They come calling when the season ends. How's that event going, Bill? How's everything there?
It's going great. I actually got to hang out with your boys from Bass University today. Pete was in the boat with me, and we had a good time, and we just had some dinner together, and he told me to spin this around on you and talk about your rookie year. You know what I mean? So it's, you talk about the work never stops. You know what I mean? There's always new products coming out, things like that the media has to see, you know what I mean? And we're the guys that have to bring it to them. And I always said, when you're being asked to come somewhere and do things like that, you're doing things right. So I never say no. I mean, just if I don't have any conflicts, I never say no. So I always try to make sure that I'm wherever anybody wants me to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Kyle, we talked a little before we came on the air. You're in the process of getting your new boat, getting the boat rigged. And that's a big deal too. I think a lot of people may assume that the boat just shows up at your house and it's ready to go, but there's a lot of work involved there. Where are you at? What are you doing? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, I'm at one of my gracious sponsors' houses actually on here in Eufaula, Alabama, and I'm, I like to work very closely with the people that help rig my boat. Elite Sonar is rigging my boat, and I'm there. I want to know where everything is, from every wire that runs up to all my hummingbirds, whatever it may be. I want to know. So if there's a problem on the water, I can fix it and have redundancy there. And it's a very, like you said, very time consuming process to rig a boat the right way. So,
Right.
yeah, just doing that and catching up on work. I just want to get this is my mistake, or not my mistake, transitioning from the opens to the elites last year. There was very little time. The time frame was so short between getting your sponsors organized, your boat organized, everything ready right before we jump in February. I have this time now after, August to, manage all my, sponsorships and new ones, or, renegotiating, or, working for my sponsors. I have all this time, but I still kind of like to time crunch myself so that come December, January, it's not like it all comes on me and I'm overwhelmed. So that's what I'm sort of doing now.
That's good, because that's an awful feeling. And I've been there. And Bill, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but going into the season feeling unprepared is a bad thing. Like I look back on the 30 years, and there were a few years where I got my boat like the week before the elite season started. Like it was that tight. There were a couple times, and I hate to say this, that I didn't break the motor in properly because it was so rushed. Do you follow Kyle's path here, Bill? Do you try to be 100% ready going into, let's say, January, February, or are you a last minute guy? Talk a little bit about that.
I've always been like, it always seems like as hard as you try, it always comes down to the last minute. I mean, look, let's face it, there's things that are out of your control, product getting shipped, and there's just things that we can't control, but with that being said, I've always been one of them guys, kind of like Kyle touched on, is that I want to know what's going on with my boat. I want to know how it's rigged. I want to be involved with that. Heck, man, I don't even like somebody else towing my boat just in case they hit a curb or something and I didn't know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jennifer drives my boat all over the country, and she's been really well with that. But I just don't trust anybody with my boat, But, there's just seems like as hard as you try to prepare, and we're all, prepare the best that we can, it always seems like it comes down to the last minute. Like we're still putting things together when we're rolling out for the first event. It's been like that in I don't know how long it's been now, 20 years. And I don't see why it's going to be any different moving forward.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm just trying to mitigate the variables. Like there's always going to be a few variables.
Yeah.
In January where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this. But like, I'm trying to mitigate and have less variables.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many things we can't control that you got to make sure with 100% for sure that you take care of the things that you can control. When things happen that you can't control, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But things that happen that you had complete control over, that's when we have problems.
Right.
Yeah. Preparation is good. Preparedness is good. I want to remind everybody watching. We got about 206 people watching. If you've got a question or comment, I'm watching them over here. We got Tony, Frank, Devin, Chris coming in. How you guys doing? Leave a comment if you got a question or comment as we discuss stuff. Please send them through. I know a lot of our fan base here, guys, are what I call aspiring pros, and so I'm excited about this topic because we've got anglers on here that are in their 50s that are aspiring to do it. We've got anglers on here that are in high school and college that are aspiring to do it, and I feel like tonight is going to be some real talk. And I'm so glad you guys are here because I feel like you're a great representation of that. Bill, I gotta start with you because you're one of the old guys like me, or older guys like me. How many years is this for you? I think it's 16, 17, 18.
Well, they were talking about that today, and they said this season coming up is going to be the 20th season for the elites. Is that? I mean, we started in 06, so for some reason I was like you thinking it's been 16 years, but now that they brought that up today, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like we're really going into our 20th season. Like it just seems like yesterday I started and Vegas was running around and he was only knee high. You know what I mean? And it's like now they're starting to drive and it's just like it goes by faster than you can think.
can you remember, and I know it's hard because for me, it's hard to remember some of the specifics, but I would love to hear it. And I know our fans would, and Kyle would. Can you remember the feeling that what were you going through your rookie season? Like, walk me through, now you've qualified, you're getting out there. I know you've had some mentors in the sport, but now you're out there grinding, and this is going to be your first season. Give me some descriptors. What were you feeling back then? What were the emotions?
I think I got to start where, before I qualified for the elites, I was fishing the opens and the overstarts, trying to qualify for one of the tours. And that year that I did qualify for the elites, I qualified for both tours. So it was like, holy crap, now we got to figure out what we're going to do, and the story of my buddy that passed away and his parents helped me and things like that. But it was always our dream to fish the Bassmaster Classic. So it was kind of like a no-brainer, like, we're going to fish the elites because we want to fish the Bassmaster Classic.
Right. Dream.
But with
it's a dream hunt.
It was the dream. I mean, my dream as a kid, I can remember wanting to be like Denny Brower and walk across that stage, and been so blessed to be able to live that dream. But like I said, my buddy that passed away, his parents helped me my first year on the tour, because I mean, honestly, it was like the scariest thing that I ever faced. Jennifer and I were just recently married, and we just basically, we took the house we were living in, got rid of it, took everything we owned, put it in a pods facility. My buddy's parents helped me out with my entry fees, and I was responsible for my expenses on the road, and like, I didn't have any, what I'm calling true sponsors, paying sponsors and things like that. And I mean, it was scary. I mean, I think when I left, and Jennifer could vouch for me, I think we had about $2,500 in the bank.
Maybe if that.
And she's saying maybe if that, and I worked installing flooring full time, everything but ceramic tile. And what that did, kind of give me the freedom to be able to take off. And I didn't have a boss telling me, hey, you got to be here. My dad was my boss, and he was a tournament angler, so he kind of knew the direction we were trying to go as well. But I mean, I can remember leaving Jennifer, and we moved into my parents' house in their basement because they had a finished basement. Hell, we didn't know what was going to happen. I could be fixing to go bankrupt, you know what I mean? And I can remember that I wanted to go. I think we had 2 or 3 back-to-backs. I think it was Amistad and Rayburn maybe. But I can remember pulling out of the driveway and just bawling my eyes out, because here I am leaving Jennifer. We're newly married. I don't have any money. Like, I got to go catch them, right? And I can remember I made the cut in my first 2 events. Actually, I made the cut in my first 5 events. Should have won Rayburn, the one that Hackney won. Just lost some really big fish. I mean, you know how that goes. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just made $50 or $60 or $70,000, how much it was. And I was like, it's funny, the little things that you remember. I can remember walking in the Bass Pro Shop on my way home from that swing, and walking in the Bass Pro Shop and thinking, oh my gosh, I can buy 2 bags of worms now instead of 1. You know what I mean? So it's just the little things like that you remember. But it was honestly, it was probably one of the scariest things I'd ever done. You know what I mean? Because not only was the financial side of it, it was that unknown of what's going to happen. And I mean, really, honestly, up to that point, guys, I'd never fished away from home. You know, I mean, I think back then there was 3 opens in a division you had to fish to qualify. And I got fortunate enough to do the Northerns, where I'd be like at Oneida or Sandusky Bay or somewhere like that, where I had a little bit of experience, and I can just, like, I'd never really been away from home, never been to Amistad or any place like that.
Right.
And I can remember my buddies saying, like, how are you going to go fish the elites and compete, because you've never been anywhere? Like, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go and fish the way that I fish. I'm going to fish my style, the shallow, grindy, Ohio River type deal. And I said, if it doesn't work, then I don't deserve to be there anyway. And and that year, you know, I went and I did my thing and I swam my jig and I fished the way that I knew how to fish, and was very fortunate to make the Classic my first year. I think I finished 26th in the points. And then just jumping forward to the next season, I got out of my style and I tried to listen to the dock talk. Oh, we're going to Kentucky Lake. You better be out on the ledges throwing a big deep diving plug. You know what I mean? And I had the worst year of my career. And I think I finished like 60th. And I told Jennifer, I said, look, from here on out, we're going to fish the way we fish, and it's either going to work or it's not. And it's worked pretty damn good until this year. You know, when this year was the toughest season I've ever had. Just, you know how it is. Some days you catch them and some days you don't. But
that happens.
Getting back to when I started, bud, it was the damn hardest thing I'd ever done at that point.
Yeah, it's amazing because as you're telling it, it sounds so fresh in your mind, and it was 20 years ago. But
you never forget it. I mean, when you're on the verge of potentially living your dream, or you're gonna fall on your face and go down in flames, you know what I mean? You're never gonna forget it. You can relive it just like it was yesterday.
Yeah, all on the line for something you love, for your passion, fear and excitement mixed together. Kyle, I want you to jump in now, and honestly, like, here's 20 years later, you're in the same boat. You're very similar background to Bill. You're not made of money. You're not, you don't have a green thumb. You don't have a trust fund coming from your family. You're a grinder. You're a hardworking guy, like regular dude, like Bill was. And now you have this opportunity to fish the elites. I'm curious, were there the same emotions as Bill was talking? Were you like, yeah, I had that, or was it different for you?
Oh, can't hear him.
Kyle, hold on. Hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. You're good.
Yeah, I would say it was a little different. And I'll tell you why. You know, I was a hyper fan from like 8 years old, right? So watching Bill, watching you, watching Gerald, watching, Polinick. And I sort of first of all, I got a little bit fortunate. And there's always fortune involved, because there kind of has to be, because you can't do this without having some freedom from your boss or help from a wealthy individual, right, or whatever it is, or you come from money, whatever. But I had set it up to where I knew that regardless, I was going to have to provide value to sponsors. So before I even made the elites, I was involved in the industry to a point where when I made the elites, I could say, hey, look, I'm on the Elite Series now. I'm keep doing what I'm doing for you, but can you add an extra 5 or 10 grand on top of my salary so I can do this? So I knew in the back of my mind that if I made the elites and during the opens, I had income coming in. So that was where it was a little different. It wasn't like a shock for me. Like I had been creating stepping stones since on the finance side, like on the on the finance. And I'm not saying Bill didn't. I'm just saying from the sounds of it, it was kind of, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit more of like, holy smokes, like I'm about to go fish the Elite Series, right?
Well,
like
absolutely.
And that was always your goal, but like it kind of like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Well, look, and here's kind of like the difference, and not to cut you off or anything, but it's like back then we didn't have this like book that said, hey, this is kind of the stepping stones we need to have to make it in this profession. I mean, back then it was like you put your flipping sticks in the box and you went fishing. You know what I mean?
Right. And there weren't as many opportunities from a social media standpoint. Sponsors, I'm sure, weren't this. I mean, everything was different.
Absolutely. And my hat's off to you for taking and setting them stepping stones up, because like I said, I mean, I told you when I left, it was the scariest daggone thing I'd ever done.
Yeah, right. And that's where I think it's different. It was scary from a fishing standpoint for me, because I had fished in the north. I had traveled a little bit. I met a guy who Gerald knows. His name's Paul Pagnato, very successful finance guy. He took me under his wing, and I basically drove his boat around for the opens. In 2022, and I was a co-angler. he paid for all my entry fees as a co. And I fished 3 of those events, the Centrals. I chose the Centrals because I knew that I knew nothing about any of the bodies of water. This is 2022, finished 180th, 140th, and 60th. And I was like, in order. So I got progressively a little better. And I was like, holy smokes, this is different. Like I had been winning at home and doing really well, but I was like, this is totally a different animal. And I'm like, I think, I had Douglas Rods, Douglas Outdoors. I had started a tournament trail for them in college for a project in college. I basically took a tournament trail. It was like the payouts. It's actually ironic. I was like, the payouts in upstate New York need to get better. I'm going to create a tournament trail that's 100% payback. So I created an LLC, and me and my 2 college buddies, we went out and we ran, 20, 30 boat tournaments, 100% payback. We took no money. And my goal was like, how many sponsors can I get to then cover my expenses? So it was almost like me later on, like getting sponsors for my tournament trail was the same as me now trying to get sponsors for myself.
Right.
So, and that's how I was introduced to Douglas, who's a main sponsor of mine now. And then down the line, Powerhouse and like all these companies. Right. But, so yeah, like it sort of has just evolved. Like my passion for fishing has just evolved. But out of college, I knew I was like, I'm gonna do this. And luckily I met, Paul Pagnato, introduced me to Gerald, John Cruz, all these guys that kind of helped me in a way, took me under the way. I could call up G or John and be like, hey, so I'm in this situation, how do I approach it? And that's fortunate, right? Like that was a fortunate thing, but nonetheless, like I just wanted to give myself a chance by having the backing. And then, I did medical sales and my boss was a fisherman, so he understood. So I had like income coming in. So when I made it, I wasn't scared of necessarily the financial side of it, but definitely worried because it's a lot of money regardless. But it wasn't like I was going to go into debt, right? Like if I not cashed a check, I would have basically fell on my face, but I wouldn't be in serious trouble, right?
Right.
And then that year, 2022, I missed it. I missed the elites. I finished 10th in AOI. Missed it by like 2 or 3 spots. I finished 190th at the Red River. And I was like, I'll give it one more shot in 2023. And in 2020, at the end of 2022 was the first time I put the LVS 34 on my boat. So I put LVS 34 on my boat at the end of 2023. I looked it up. By the way, the LVS 32 from Garmin came out June of 2018. So the first time I had live scope on my boat was the 2022, the end of 2022. And then going into 2023 with that advantage of being like, I'm going to use this to my advantage on these lakes that I have no idea how to fish. And it was different than we use it now, but like seeing structure or whatever it may be, that's the year I qualified. And I don't know. I mean, that wasn't a very cohesive sort of, but same surprise for me. Like I was nervous going.
Yeah, you were more prepared, and I think Bill did hit a good point, which is Bill. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there wasn't as much of a blueprint for what we were trying to do. Right? We had people that we could look up to. Denny Brower, hero of mine as well, and you could look at those guys. But I think Kyle had more of a blueprint to follow,
100%.
Which guys like you, Bill, you probably paved the way for some of that.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why I have so much respect for everyone that's done it before me, because like I wouldn't have this opportunity right now that I have if it wasn't for all of you guys. And I'll get into that later. I'm sure that's something that I think people, I don't want to say like they overlook. I don't think people quite understand. So, okay, I just went, Elite Sonar brought me to a high school tournament. Okay. At Eufaula, Alabama, went down to the dock, 170 boat high school tournament. And I sat there, there were tents everywhere. I sat there in awe. I was like, oh my gosh, this is because we don't have that in the North. I don't know where Bill went, but I think with the growth of our sport, the respect for the generations prior and like who, Ray Scott and like all that whole history, I think it gets lost a little bit because we're growing so quickly.
Yeah.
That people they're thinking about sponsors and this and that. They're not really thinking and sort of comprehending like how this sport came to be and like how we're here, why sponsors are paying you or why whatever it may be.
Yeah. The history of the sport a little bit.
And you can see it. I just find that I look at fishing a little bit like golf in a lot of ways, but in this way, especially like etiquette matters a lot to me, at least. Like I find that I'm always going to be as, in all situations, it's sort of like a respect. You owe it regardless. I don't care what age you are, whatever it is, like, but especially your elders, like not elders, but you know what I mean? Like the people who came before you, like Ike, perfect example. When we were in the back of Fork, remember that creek we were in?
Oh yeah.
You were back in there, and I before I even got within freaking 200 yards, I yelled out, "Ike, do you mind if I keep on this path?"
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
But that's a micro sort of, I guess you could say microcosm, but that's a micro to the macro, which is the whole aurora and the way the sport is right now. I think we just need a little bit more respect and
right. I would agree. I think
right. Like I think there's it's being lost. That's all.
Some of that's got lost. And it's actually a great segue to the next thing I want to talk about. So, like finances and sponsors is a finite thing, but I want to talk a little bit about the feeling of being accepted, the feeling of the sport. I want to start with Bill. Looking back on that, and it's kind of funny that it's 20 years because it doesn't feel that long. But talk about your rookie season, your sophomore season. Talk about the environment of bass fishing back then. Talk about the acceptance level. Were you accepted? Was the sport booming? Talk a little bit about the energy of the sport back in 2006, 2007, that era.
I mean, the first thing that stands out is I can remember the first time I ran into you, you pushed me down in the mud. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be real welcome here, I don't. It's kind of tricky to answer that and what that feeling was because like I didn't know like what it was supposed to be like. I mean, I didn't know if it was good, if it was bad, if it was like. All I know is I was excited and blessed to be there. And honestly, like, I feel like I got really accepted really fast because and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I wasn't a punk. You know what I mean? I was not.
Yeah.
I was very respectable to my peers. Because like I said, I was just thankful to be there and blessed to be there. And, my rookie class I was in a rookie class that I don't feel was a true rookie class. It wasn't like it is now where if you've made X amount of dollars or you fished on another tour, you don't fall under that umbrella. Well, when my rookie year, I think like Jared Littner and Fred Rambonis and Steve Kennedy and, everybody that was in my rookie class had already been fishing professionally for years. And I'm like I was the only true rookie in the whole field. And I'm like, this is crazy,
Yeah.
But like, I can remember just being so excited to be there. So when you asked me, like, what was did you feel like it was a good place? Was it a bad place? It was the coolest thing I'd ever been involved in my whole life. I mean, for one, to make it there, now I'm living my dream, to see all my, I'm just going to say heroes, that I've been watching or reading in Bassmaster since I was a little guy. Now I'm fishing against them. Now I want to go in here and flip bushes with Denny Brower. And like, how do I do this? You know what I mean?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So it's crazy to think that was 20 years ago. And look, let's face it, we know there's been so many shakeups and twists and turns in the fishing world. It's been really good. It's been really bad. But I think that's with anything, regardless if you work on at General Motors on an automotive line or whatever that may be, there's going to be ups and downs in everything we do. You know, we just got to all stick together and come out of it at the end. You know what I mean? But my rookie year, guys, it was like, it was the most amazing thing I'd ever done. I honestly, I can remember it was like it was yesterday, but it was such a whirlwind and it went by so fast. You know, that year I qualified for my first Bassmaster Classic. I don't even remember what happened at the first Bassmaster Classic because I was like on cloud nine that I was there.
It's like a blur.
I couldn't tell you anything about it. It was on Lay Lake. I believe it was the one Boyd Duckett might have won. But I don't even remember it, you know? And I always tell all the rookies that I talk to, I'm like, look, just enjoy your first Classic because it's going to go by so fast. Don't get caught up in the whole deal. It's going to be hard to concentrate on fishing. But honestly, I don't even remember my first Classic.
Yeah. I'll jump in real quick. Now, I want to hear from Kyle, but I'll jump in and say I remember those years, you know, the let's call it mid 2000s very vividly. And I remember, you know, excitement, right? The Elite Series were starting for the first time. I remember the owners of the organization at the time, which was ESPN, had come in and bought it. And I remember this overwhelming feeling of excitement and energy. And, you know, they were trying E50s. They were doing standalone events. They were at the end of the year, they did like this specialty event and they were doing all these cool things. And I remember that era being so much positive energy surrounding the sport, exposure like we've never received, and just this really cool vibe. You know, it was a magical time. I remember it like it was yesterday. Kyle, I'd like to flip it to you because I want you to talk about the feeling of being a rookie last year. 2024. So, you know, the Elite Series is a special place to get to. And when you get, thank you, Beck. And when you get to it, I think there's a lot of positivity in that. But talk about some of the other things. And you know, listen, we've got 500 people watching. And Bill alluded to it a little bit, which is the reality of the sport today has changed a little bit. Talk about the feelings that you went through during your rookie season.
So the feelings that I went through, honestly, were exactly what Bill said. For me personally, I couldn't get over, like, every night I would get home and call my girlfriend and be like, I'm such a hyper fan. I still am. Like, the fact that I'm on Ike Live right now, I still think about that. Like, you know what I mean? No, but seriously, like, this is the same thing. It's the same thing that you guys went through. And I said it to you, Ike, when I was in the back of that creek at Fork. I said, I still, like, cannot believe that I'm fishing next to Iaconelli right now.
You did say that. Did I not say that? Yeah, that was awesome. It was very flattering.
Like,
thank you.
I'm exactly like you, Bill. Like, I was over the moon all year. Now, as the year went on, I you know, those feelings, they kind of level out, right? Like, because I went from having Dave Mercer announce my name at Toledo Bend, having a decent check there. I finished 26 or something, I think, whatever it was. And then top 10 in Fork. And then I go to the Classic, top 10 in the Classic. And I'm just like cloud nine, like most amazing thing that could ever happen. And then, you know, as the season comes, it keeps going, it levels out, right? Like, now it's like, all right, I'm understanding that this is a reality. I'm kind of trying to get into my own groove, build my own brand, you know, provide the most value to my sponsors. And you sort of start to feel a little bit of what's actually happening within the sport and what's going on, right? And that's where I could feel that it wasn't like I could sense. Like I remember watching ESPN and that was like a crazy time, like what you were saying, sort of most amount of exposure to you guys. The sport was sort of feeling like it was on the up and up, booming. And maybe it's because I'm a rookie, but it just didn't feel that it still doesn't, but it doesn't feel like that. Right. Because I took my internal feel. I was living in this little world of like, oh my God, I made the Elite Series. I'm fishing the Classic. And then I kind of came out of my like awe and sort of really started to think about like the sport and like where we're at. And that's where it sort of hit me that we're not where we want to, like, it's not, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words for what I'm trying to say, but it wasn't what we want, right? As anglers, as fans, like there's something that needs to change. And yeah, like I don't know. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm getting at? Like
I do.
And I'm talking to you about my experience.
Yeah.
That is me personally.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm 20, almost 28. So I'm old for the rookie class, right? Like I know, but seriously, I'm like the second or third oldest in the class.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. It's hard to put your finger on it because, we've talked a little bit about this in some prior shows, but there is a little bit of a cloud surrounding the sport right now, right? And you can't pin it on one thing.
No.
Bill, we could sit here and just start naming them off, and I don't think it's any one thing. But when you take, forward-facing sonar and some of the cheating scandals and, the organizations themselves, the split a handful of years ago, you start churning all those in a pot, and there is this little bit of a cloud happening right now. And I think that's a difference. Like, I remember your rookie season, Bill. I remember it. And there were rookies that were in it, and they didn't have this cloud put on them, right? Like, I'd been doing it for a while, but you didn't have a cloud. Littner, those guys, they didn't have a cloud over the sport at that time. And it's unfortunate, Kyle, that you have that now.
I think that it's a culmination of a lot of what you said, but also the growth. What I was talking about with going to that high school tournament, 170 boats in a local high school tournament. We're talking like, college, there's 400 boats. Like the sport is growing in a participation in people that are doing it, but it doesn't seem. So you have that, then you have forward-facing sonar technology, then you have the learning curve increasing with social media and all this stuff. I think that all coming together kind of what was like the rookies this year, my class, it kind of all hit at the same time. Like we were rookies, forward-facing sonar was just kind of, it wasn't coming out of the scene because it's been around for so long, but it was sort of it started to dominate the same time that we kind of came in. I mean, Kiyoya dominated the year before, but that was one or two guys. And you're just, it all happened. It all came to kind of a point.
Right.
Mid-year was the growth of the sport and the younger generation getting really good. That came. Then it was forward-facing sonar meeting with that. The honesty issues, the cheating situation coming into play, all of that. And then, we've got the election year and like all of this is all, it's
a perfect storm. It's just a perfect storm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
And companies are struggling right now in the fishing industry a little bit because of the changes. Like it's all just into
it's all one. It is like a perfect storm. It's a good term, Bill, because I feel like that's correct.
Yeah.
I want to hit this one more time though, because Bill, when you were a rookie, you were being lumped with not only other rookies, but like I remember like from the giddy, like I would see Bill, I'd see you, Bill, and I'd be like, oh, Bill, he's one of the, like, you were like an old soul. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, when I'd see you, I'd be like, oh, Bill's hanging out with Denny and Tommy Biffle, and you had that like old soul, and people would pin you with these older veterans. So that was your connection. Flash forward to now, Kyle, you're being pinned. Your connection is this new rookie class, this dominating, smart, forward-facing, sonar savvy rookie class. And it has good parts, like what happened with Bill. Good to be associated with those old souls. But you're getting lumped in with a lot of bad stuff too. And I noticed that. And I know you've dealt a little bit with that through your social media and stuff, but you know, I don't want to call out any names, but you were sort of lumped in this year with some rookies that were doing some not so good stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think all the rookies were, right? Like
that's tough. Like Bill and I, Bill, we didn't have to deal with that, right? Do you ever remember that?
I don't remember any of that till like recently, ever, you know? Yeah.
And I think that was all the rookies. And I think that honestly, that would be the one thing, now that you bring that up, that would be the one thing that I had to deal with this year that I wish I hadn't had to.
Right.
Was putting an emphasis and a focus on, you know, talking with Gerald, talking with Bill at times. I remember I've called Bill multiple times this year and just like trying to basically say, look, I'm not that guy.
Right.
Like that's simple. Like,
right.
Talk to anyone, right? Like there is nothing, right? And so I wish that I hadn't had to deal with any of that. That would be the one sore on the year for me is I had to take some energy and I mean, you kind of lose friends over it, honestly. You know, I didn't know what was going on. And then I'm like, you know, I have to disassociate with this or that. And that was a learning curve for me to, you know, have to call someone, a couple people or whatever, and say, look, I can't even talk to you anymore. Like, and also have to basically, you always have to earn your respect, but a little bit more. I feel like I had to do that a little bit more this year, and sort of navigate that, which it's okay. I mean, you're always going to have situations where you need to figure out how to navigate, but
it's a good point to bring up. I mean, I guess the question, and I want to ask Bill this one is, do you have to have thick skin to be a pro? And should you have to have thick skin? Like, you know, I, as a rookie, I may have dealt with this a little more than I think Bill. I got in a little earlier. I was sort of an outcast by default. But minus that, I never felt any of that stuff that you had to deal with. So I guess, Bill, the question is for people watching and listening right now that all of a sudden are saying, oh, man, do I need a thick skin? Should I have a thick skin? Or should I worry about this? What do you think about that?
Well, I think not only in fishing, I think any professional sport, whether that be football, baseball, tennis, hell, cornhole for that matter.
Right.
I think you're going to have thick skin just in general, just in life nowadays. If you don't have thick skin, people are going to walk on you. They're going to take advantage of you. And I just believe in life in general, you have to have thick skin. You know, but with that being said, you know, I was always brought up that a man's word is all you got. You know what I'm saying? And if a man's word ain't worth a nickel, you know what I mean, then to me, the person has no value. You know what I mean? But with that being said, I think for sure, you got to have some thick skin. You know what I mean? Should it have to be like that? Maybe not. But I mean,
I think it should have to be like that.
Yeah,
I do. And sorry to cut you off, Bill, but
no, you're good.
So
you just hurt my feelings.
Yeah. And look, we're in that day and age too, not to get on a different topic, but having thick skin is being lost. Okay. Like, I mean, look, I was on
can see that. I can
yeah,
see
like
that.
I was on a sports team in college. I didn't fish in college I always get asked that question. Did you fish in college? No. I played soccer in college. You know, D3, but our coach was like one of those like D1, like push you to the max, like made us run a sub 5-minute mile. It was nuts. And I was in a fraternity. So like I've had to have thick skin, buddy. Like and like I promise you the things that yeah, like it was some, you know, that's just life. And so,
I'm streaking.
yeah.
I'm streaking.
But no. But seriously, that taught me a lot. Like the only thing in the beginning that it's hard because you idolize. I idolized you guys, still do. But you know, back before I made the elites, it was like, oh my God, that's, you know, Bill Lowen, that's my guy Iaconelli, blah blah blah. And then when you get, I could see from people's perspective, you get thrown into that crowd, and all of a sudden they're like, you're not a fan anymore. You're my enemy. Like that can be tough for people to comprehend, right?
Yeah.
In a matter of, you know, you go from being a fan one day, and then literally 1 week later, you're competing against them head to head. That's tough to swallow sometimes, I think.
It is competition. It is
I mean,
competition.
I'm going to treat every rookie the same way I want to be treated. And Kyle, you can vouch for me on this. I mean, every rookie, the class that's ever come through that I've met, handshake, I always tell them if they need anything, call me. And I am going to treat you that way until you give me a reason not to treat you that way. You know?
I'll vouch for that. Bill walked up to me, shook my hand, 100%. 100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's the way it should be. Bill, I think what you just said is lost a lot today.
It is absolutely lost. And that's kind of what I was going to allude to, is that we've lost that. You know what I mean? Like the camaraderie, the, you know, just like I can remember, Ike, when it was like, heck, our wives didn't even want to talk to other wives and things like that. You know what I mean? But, you know, the split happened and things changed and anglers came back. And now it's like, I think the wives and stuff may get along better than we do. You know what I mean?
That may be true.
I mean, to me, that's huge. You know what I mean? That was a hurdle, like that the wives didn't even want to be involved together. You know what I mean? And it's just not like that anymore. But I think like we said, some of that is just that camaraderie's been lost. That, you know, I mean, yeah, we're competitors. We're all competing against each other. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, this is our family, right? Yeah. I mean, we spend more time together with the guys on the tour than we do with our families at home. Because, you know, in theory, we leave home in February. We don't get home for any amount of time till September. Now, I'm very fortunate that my family travels all over the country with me. The kids are homeschooled. But this is our family, man, and it's going to be our family till we retire or whatever. So, you know, you're either going to be part of the family or you're not. You know what I mean? It's kind of the way I look at it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm just speaking out loud because I usually speak my mind a lot. You know, I sometimes to a fault. But is the change that we're seeing, or the change that we're seeing, is it because of the demographic change that you have on the Elite Series now? You know, you've got people that are, heck, how old was Rick Klum last year, right? Like, and then you have a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, that is a very, like, it went back in 2009. What was the youngest guy and what was the oldest guy?
Yeah.
And their backgrounds. A lot of their backgrounds were the same. Now you're having, like I said, the sport is, I'm going to stop using the term growing, expanding.
Yeah.
Because growing implies, the way we're talking about it, like, you know, economic, like trending up. I'm going to say it's growing. So there's more people coming into the sport.
Yeah.
That, I think that is another thing that kind of came to the path, to the point that we're talking about. There is so many different people now on the Elite Series than there was. Like these new 9, That's now 18 on the elites that are a whole lot different than in 2009 or 10. Like you didn't have, you know what I mean? You didn't have, who was the youngest guy, Bill?
I think up to this point, Bradley Roy was probably the youngest rookie to ever come on the scene. I mean, my rookie year, I was 30 years old, maybe.
Yeah. So you were,
so
I was 3 years younger than you, and I was one of the oldest.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, up to this point, Bradley Roy was the youngest rookie to ever show up on the elites.
Yeah.
And he was, I think, he was 20 maybe or 19, something right around there.
That sounds right.
Jennifer's saying 19, so I believe was 19, and I'm just going to be real careful talking about this because the last time I talked about this, I got crucified, on the age of the rookie. So I'm just going to leave all this up to y'all.
Yeah. I just think, look, I just think, Mike, let me just real quick. I just think that people think age doesn't matter. It 100% matters. There are people on the Elite Series that don't have to pay their own health insurance. You know what I mean? They're still on their parents' plan. Like that. Yeah. That is a total difference in mindset. You don't have a girlfriend. You don't have a wife. You don't have kids. Like that's a big difference in you as a person, regardless of your personality.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. There's definitely it's a younger age. It's an information age. There's definitely a different demographic. So I think all those differences make for a different environment.
Totally.
I want to ask this is an interesting question because as you were talking, I thought of this, and I'm going to start with Kyle. If you guys, so I can't remember the movie. Bill, ask Jennifer if she remembers the movie, but it's basically an old, let's call it like 90s movie where the daughter, she's a teenage daughter and she's so mad at her mom and she's just, man, I wish I was an adult. I wish I could be you for a day. And they swap roles. So we're going to do this movie right now. And I want to start with you, Kyle. If we were to flash transport you back, you get in a hot tub. It's the hot tub time machine.
Love that movie.
And, it's a great movie. So you're in a hot tub, whatever you're wearing, you're in the hot tub and you're transported back to Bill's rookie year, transport it back to 20 years ago. And be honest. This is like live. You got to be honest. Could you, and do you think you could compete the same way you're competing now? Would you be the same successful angler you are today if you were brought back to 2006?
Are you just talking about finishes?
Everything. You're a rookie, and you have
sponsors, finishes.
Everything is relative. So you don't have forward facing. You don't have
no. Yeah,
it's relative. Okay. You're 2007. But you're you.
Yeah, I personally think yes, because if I had the same personality, I feel like I could absolutely. Now, as far as the finishes go, I don't think anyone can say they could be as consistent. It's not possible.
Right.
It's not. I mean, maybe like your best years, like you take what it took for AOY and ROY in finishes now, and you compare it to 2010.
Right.
Not even close. I guarantee it. Actually, I know it. So on that front, could I have been as consistent? Maybe not. But then again, I'm pretty good at flipping a jig. I'm pretty good at skipping docks. I'm pretty good at, fishing off my instincts. So I think that I'd have success. Absolutely. Yeah. And then on the sponsor side, that's a whole totally different thing with the internet. That I couldn't answer. But I think that, dude, going into this year, success for me was to cut a few checks. When I made the elites at Harris Chain, I was the last man in. I needed like an 89th place finish, and I finished, I needed a 99th, and I finished like 70th. Okay. I reflected. I was excited. I came back. I said, you know what? I think a really good year was, if I barely missed the Classic, I'd be upset. But honestly, if I'm top 50 out of 100, that's success.
Yeah.
So to me, if I had my rookie year back when Bill was a rookie, if I had a solid top 50 in AOY, that's success to me.
Right.
But mostly provided value for my sponsors and built my own brand.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I think you'd be great in 2006, Kyle.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bill, same question to you. And you got to be, this is Ike Live, so you got to be honest. You're in a hot tub and you're sitting in the hot tub relaxing and you're transported to 2024 as a rookie. Same parameters as Kyle. It's still you're you, but you're in 2024 with all this new stuff, social media and this and that and forward facing and the information highway. Do you think you would make it as a rookie? How do you think you would fare success wise in 2024 as a rookie?
Now, Bill, before you answer that question, remember before you answer the question that it's you, but you grew up in this. How old is Bill? Is he 20 or is he 30? That's very different.
He's a young man. He's a young man, and he's now.
You got to assume you grew up watching YouTube. You got a live scope on your boat when you were 16. You know what I mean? Come on.
All right. So Jennifer thinks the movie was Freaky Friday, by the way.
Yes.
It was Freaky Friday. Thank you.
So I'm gonna say, because I've always been like a sponge, like I'm gonna absorb everything, right? And I'm gonna say, if that was the case, that I'd probably be a really phenomenal rookie. And I know that sounds like you're bragging, whatever.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know now, 20 years on the tour, whatever, I'm getting ready to turn 50 in December. I have always prided myself on learning everything there is about bass fishing, from patterns to weather conditions, rising water, falling water, moon phases, crankbait colors, just anything that I could absorb, I absorbed it. And I think that's why I've had such a successful career and always have been so consistent. So with that being said, like, I would have absorbed this forward-facing sonar. I would have absorbed, the informational highway, because when I started, we didn't have that. Like, it was like you better learn everything you need to learn, and it all boiled down to time on the water. You know what I mean? The more time you spend on the water, the better you were. And with what we have now at our disposal of the information highway, like, I hate to say this, but we have, it's always been our job for our sponsors to teach this new generation everything we know, right?
Everything.
Because if we didn't do that, then we bring no value to our sponsors. So everything that I know about flipping a jig or swimming a jig, or just everybody out there knows it, because I have spilled the beans to everybody, because that's my job. So yeah, I would have absorbed, like, I would have been trying to figure out everything there was about forward-facing sonar, and I'm glad you brought that up, Kyle, because I am sitting back still waiting for all you superstar forward-facing sonar guys to start putting some videos up there to kind of help us old guys out.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Because I don't see any of them,
Go to Bass U. I spilled all my beans, every possible beans that I could have spilled.
You did some good ones for Bass U. I gotta invite everybody.
Here's all I see is just like, you see the dot, you throw it out there, and you just shake it over him, and he bites it. That's all I see. Look, the very first time I ever got in a boat with another angler that had forward-facing sonar on his boat was Wes Logan, right? And long story short, I caught a 3-pound spot out of a basically a fish attractor, and I caught that fish. I said, "Turn it off. I don't want to see it anymore." And he said, "Mr. Bill, all you got to do is throw it dots." And that's kind of stuck with me ever since that. But like I said, I would have just absorbed it. You know what I mean? And it's like every day on the water for me now, it's like I just feel like I have no choice but to learn forward-facing sonar. And I get better and better with it every single day. But I'm not afraid of it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be afraid of something that I know that I have to learn. So with that being said, hot tub time machine, me in a bikini, G-string, whatever. I would have absorbed all of it. And yeah, I mean, it would have been like, I would just like to know how that would be, because to be able to have the knowledge that this new generation has when they hit the tour, I mean, they're as good as it gets.
As good as they get. Yeah.
And they're just getting better and better and better. And Kyle, you're going to see this as you progress in your career, that like there's going to become a point when you're like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to stop? Or like, are they ever going to quit getting better and better and better? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see it every year, and it's getting harder and harder, with this new technology, and like the new generation just absorbs all that. I mean, I'm sure Vegas is phenomenal with forward facing sonar. Fisher is no different. He is really good with forward facing sonar, but he's just like you and I. He'll want to do that for a few hours, but then he wants to go flip docks or swim a jig.
And dude, and Bill, I'm the same way. Like,
Yeah,
I just know that I probably next year is going to be a little different. I will say, even Gerald always says it's not to me, but I think it's going to be a little different. But I just know that I have a far less chance at cutting a check if I only dedicated half of my practice to looking for the forward facing sonar fish. At least last year, the where we hit the fisheries we went to, the times a year, I knew that there was no possible chance that I was going to go and fish the way I wanted to fish. Yeah.
I'm not.
And I
so
learned
sure
that really
if there's-
quickly.
I'm not so sure if there's anywhere that you can go where the forward facing sonar is not going to be.
Look, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about Toledo Bend real quick. So Wesley Gore, super good dude, phenomenal bank fisherman. Like, you ask anyone in Alabama, that dude is nasty on the bank. Always has been. But he's phenomenal at throwing a minnow. And that's something that is a weak point for me, right? So at Toledo Bend, I launched the boat, and him and I work together. So we're chatting. I'm going down the bank. I'm throwing my speed worm in grass. I went to the back of housing, blah, blah, blah. I ran into G back there. It was pretty funny. We had anyway, day 3 of practice. He says to me, look, literally, I want you to go to the mouth of housing. And when I say the mouth of housing, I mean like a mile out from housing. I'm like, okay. He's like, I want you to go there. I want you to sit your boat down. I want you to put your trolling motor down in the water. And I want you to trolling motor from a mile outside of housing to about halfway back. And just put a minnow in your hand. And I did it for 45 minutes, and I called him up on the water. We're allowed to, for everyone that doesn't know, we're allowed to call each other in practice if you're on the Elite Series. I called him up. I said, Wes, dude, what the are you talking about, dude? Like, get over here right now. Because I'm like, dude, this is insane. Gets on my boat, and he's like, just watch. And he kept going. He kept going. I had only gone for about 20 minutes. He went for another 40, runs into a 6-pounder, catches it. Goes another 40. No, we did not see a fish for 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Ran into another fish, 5-pounder. I was like, oh, so you have to go, like, you have to not do anything else for 8 hours and just go until you see a fish. And you're only going to see 6 to 10, but you're going to catch every one of them. And that was the day right there that I learned a totally new technique of fishing. Because
that is so not fishing.
Look, I know, but that's why I was so astonished by it, though, at the same time. Because you got to remember, the first time that I ever did that was that day on Toledo Bend.
Yeah, I'm glad you told that story, because that story in a nutshell, I think, is the root of a lot of negativity toward forward-facing sonar.
Absolutely.
And I would be included in that, because that is so far removed from the sport of fishing. That is the traditional way to sport fish. It is so far removed from that.
At the same time, I was pretty astonished by it, and I thought it was pretty cool, because now now this is one time. We're talking about one time, doing this one time, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, I never would have done this. Like personally, I'm good at forward-facing sonar. I'm not hating on forward-facing sonar, by the way, for all the viewers. My forward-facing sonar skills are good for fish that are on structure and on the bottom. I'm not looking for. I didn't make the elites by looking for cruising fish. I was always brush, rock, shallow docks. You know, I would use forward-facing sonar to like look and say, oh, there's a 5-pounder under that dock, or that's something going on under that dock, right? But this was like a totally different animal, and it proved throughout the next Toledo, Fork, the Classic. I forget the events out there. I know, Smith, St. Lawrence.
A lot. Yeah. A lot. And this, this proves the point, and I'll throw myself into this. If I was in that hot tub and got transported to 2024, I would suck.
Yeah. I think
I'd be the worst.
But at the same time, you would have someone like Wesley, I'm sure, back in the day, show you and say, look, and at that point, what are you going to do? Like, I didn't have a choice at that point. I was getting 4 bites or 3 bites a day on the bank with my dang speed worm and my brush hog dyed tail. I didn't have a choice. It was like, what am I going to do? Not get a $10,000 check?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought that tournament up, because that was the first tournament in my 20 years that I just wanted to cry in the boat, right? Like, my heart was broken. Okay. And this was the 3rd day of practice, right? And I'm swimming a jig and flipping a jig, and I'm getting a lot of bites, doing the way I like to fish. And, we got the front, whatever, them fish that we're catching on forward-facing sonar, they don't get affected by that, right?
Right.
Anyway, I'm running down the lake. I'm going to housing, right? The last day of practice, I want to go down there. There's a few spots in there I want to check, right? So I'm running down the lake, and I'm looking out in front of me at the mouth of housing out there where you're talking about being. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on in the mouth of housing? And there's like, honestly, I'm just going to say half the field was at the mouth of housing during practice, last day of practice. Everybody's got their head down. Everybody's scoping, right? And I come down off pad, and I had the worst feeling in my stomach that I've ever had on the water. Like, it was like the life had got sucked out of me, because I'm just going to use a number, just 50 of our guys were in the springtime on Toledo Bend, and half of our field's out in the middle of the lake. And I just thought to myself, I cannot believe that this is what we've come to. You know what I mean? And for like, I'm just gonna say, for an old timer like myself, that was like really hard for me to stomach. That really, I gotta just kind of almost like forget everything I know, and I have to go do this. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been fighting it, but I'm to the point now where like, I can't fight it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to do it. And like I said earlier, every day I'm on the water, that's what I spend doing. It's like, you don't have a choice at this point. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that was like the first time that it was like the gut punch to me. Like, oh my gosh, like, this is for real.
That's the first time in the South that I truly had that aha moment. Don't get me wrong. I had thrown a minnow in the North, and I'd thrown it before, but I had never done it to that level. And so that's when I was like, holy smoke. Like, I sort of I can see how to do it. And it was cool for me at the time, because you got to think, I'm thinking to myself, this is a whole different, like, I like learning. I mean, I just like learning about fish and about movement and so for me, I'm like, this is crazy so all the fish were moving from who knows where, way out, right? And they were using it as a highway to go back and do their thing, or pulling out, or whatever it may be. And you were intercepting them. So that's a cool thing to see in front of you, right? But at the same time, I totally see where you're coming from, where it's almost, there's never going to be a time where it's not
Yeah. I mean, right or wrong, this is probably a whole nother show, and we've discussed it so many times. I'm sure everyone's kind of sick of it, but right or wrong, we're not going to determine that today, but it has fundamentally changed the game. It has fundamentally changed the sport. It's like if you were playing baseball the same way since the 1890s and something came in and fundamentally changed the way you play baseball. That's what happened in fishing.
There's no denying that.
And that's that feeling that Bill talked about that many of the guys have and had, that it's fundamentally changed. And again, right or wrong, we're not going to discuss that in this show. Anyway,
Agreed.
We're a little over an hour. I do want to hit two more things real quick. I got to hit with you guys. And we've been pretty cool the whole show, but I got to address something because it's so current. And it does tie into the topic of tonight's show. And I guess, and I want to ask both of you, maybe Bill, let's start with you and then we'll go to Kyle. I want to get your opinion on how the current change, right? We're probably a little over 2 weeks from a huge announcement at Bass of no entry fees. And, I think when you first laid your eyes on that announcement, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, Becky and I are sitting at the desk and Becky's literally like, oh, big announcement. And she's reading it, and it was like no entry fees. And our eyes went, and it was like the Holy Grail, when they lift up the treasure chest and it's like, whoa, and we're like, yes. And then you kind of like read through it. So, how do these current changes, no entry fees, but super reduced payouts, how will that affect the rookies coming in? How will that affect the rookie class in 2025? I'd love to get your guys' opinion on it. Bill, let's start with you.
I guess I'm just going to look at it from when I started as a rookie. Like that would have been the most phenomenal thing ever. I was very fortunate. My buddy that passed away, his parents helped me, and I'll forever be grateful for that. If they had not done that, there was no possible way that I would have ever, like you and I would probably not even be talking right now. Because there's no way financially that I could have done it. No, there's no way. Right. My dreams they'd have been gone. With that being said, I think it's one of the most phenomenal things that could ever happen for us. And we all agree that, the payout side is weak. We obviously want to be able to make as much money as we possibly can. Yeah. But look, we all got our own opinions, right? Some of us love it. Some of us hate it. I think it's, like I said, I think it is, we need that. We need, but with that being said, it's like the greatest thing that ever happened. And I'm like lost for words here because I feel like kind of like you did, like it was the greatest.
It's the greatest, worst, all in the same thing. It's like turning on the faucet and you're cold, and you turn it on hot. You're like, and then all of a sudden you turn the faucet the other way, and it's oh my god, you're ice cold. It's kind of like it was that. For me,
it was that exact same feeling for me. I was in North Dakota. Jennifer was reading it to me, and I was like, once again, like, oh my gosh, we have no entry fees. I'm getting all choked up, and I got chills running up my spine. And then you got to absorb we looked at the payout, and then like Jennifer and I talked. It's like, but we got to start somewhere, right? We have to, this could be the hugest thing that we've ever seen in our sport in the next 2 or 3 years, but we have to get to that point first. Right. So with that being said, I think it's the greatest thing that we could potentially be seeing for the sport. Let's work on the payout, or maybe we don't, but I think in the future, we're going to see it get better and better. That's just my opinion. But I said, we have to start somewhere. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a good take. I think the no entry fees is a step in the right direction. Kyle, chime in, because I think I would love to hear your opinion. Are are the rookie class coming in, the ones that just qualified now. We got a whole new group coming. The guys behind them that will be fishing the opens in 2025. Is this a good change for them, or is it a bad change for them?
I think if I were them, I don't think I don't know how I would feel about it because they don't know. They haven't done it yet.
Right.
So Bill, I just want to address one thing quickly. So we talk about like it's a start and like it gets better and better. I gotta ask though, like the payouts have gone down and inflation has gone up for the last 15 years. So how on earth could it get better? And this isn't a shot at you. This is just my thought process when it comes to this. And I've talked to a bunch of elite anglers. So have you guys. Everyone's like, well, this is a start. It is a start, but it's been going like this for the past 15 years, right? And then it goes like this, but really it's kind of like that. How is it then going to just magically get better? That's where my thoughts are right now is like, because same reaction. For me, saving 45 grand, when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can build my house. I don't have a house. Like I don't have a house. You know what I mean? Like I'm 27. I don't have a house. I need to build a house. I bought a piece of land just recently, and that news, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to build a house. Yeah. And then I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll just use examples, right? I have $100 in sponsorships. Actually better, $200 in sponsorships. I'm saving 45 grand, but I have to spend 40 grand in lodging, gas, and, miscellaneous on the road. And then I have, I'll call it 40 in gas, lodging. Then I have 30 in camera, my camera guy that I pay full time, and the camera boats and this and that. Those are all expenses I factored into. Okay, if I have I made what last year? I think I cashed seven events with a few top tens mixed in. So I made 100 grand, subtract the entry fee, I profited 55,000. So the way I look at it is, yeah, it's better if I have an off year, but like a one-off year or two-off year, because we all go into the year saying everyone's goal is to top, 10 AOI or top 20 AOI, right? Like no one's going to fish the elites to finish 85th or 90th in AOI, right? That's none of our goals. So yeah, it works for if you finish low in AOI and don't cash a lot of checks. But if you have a year like I did, I just lost 45 grand.
You lost 45 grand in the new payout.
In the new, correct. So that vastly changes. Like, okay, so now do I risk having a camera boat, making YouTubes and trying to grow my brand? Do I risk that money knowing that? Because we all know we were risking the entry fee, but if you finish top half like that, those are pretty good odds.
But anymore, that ain't easy to do either.
No, it's not. Right. So I just don't think. You asked what are they thinking? I don't think they're thinking yet because they don't know. I wouldn't have been. Right. I wouldn't have been. I would have been like, that's the best news since sliced bread. Yeah, I make $500. Well, I saved 4,500. Yeah, but I made $500. I saved $5 grand. But it's tricky when you have the expenses we have. Like you need to recoup that. The way I always said it is, if I'm going to drive 10 hours and walk into a casino, but I'm only allowed to bet $1, why am I going to drive 10 hours? I'd rather drive 10 hours and walk in there with $5 grand. Because if I double $5 grand, I'm making $5 grand. If I double $1, I'm losing, $2 grand in gas and lodging to get there.
Yeah. I think one of the things that has got us kind of like concerned or worried is like, look, every year we start out, it's the unknown. Like you have no idea what's going to happen. We're so invested. You just don't know. You know what I mean? So now here we are in a situation that we've never been in before. Like there's none of us that have ever been in this. You know what I mean? You kind of were because you went, MLF tried the no entry fee. basically playing with somebody else's money. You know what I mean? Versus here we are, and in theory, I guess Bass is using their money. You know what I mean? It's new for all of us. Like it's the unknown for every single one of us. Like we have no idea what, and I look like honestly that just scares the hell out of all of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we don't know.
Right.
And I guess that goes back to what I said in the beginning. If we don't take a chance, we're never going to know. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And
Yeah,
I'm not saying
that's
I'm
hard
totally
for that's hard for a lot of us to stomach because we're so used to them $10,000 checks and things like that. But then you look at it like if you do hit a good lick, you know, let's just say you win. I mean, look at it now. Like now you're like, hell yeah, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So it's
Yeah.
always the unknown, guys. It's always been since as long as I've done this.
Yeah.
And like I said, now we're in a situation where none of us have ever been. So we really don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you're scared just as well as I am about the whole deal.
Yeah, there's always going to be an unknown factor. You're right, Bill.
Absolutely.
There's always going to be a little unknown factor.
But here's what was an unknown was consistency was king. Now consistency isn't necessarily king. If you finished 25th in every event last year, you were doing something and it was consistent and you were going to make money.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. That's what I don't like.
Yeah. You should reward. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Made my career being consistent.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
and you got to win, and that's huge. But how many guys win?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would love to solve all the problems in the world and say if we could get no entry fee and the same payout or better than last year, Bill, we'd be in a good place. Kyle, we'd be in a good place. I feel like we could get this.
Hell, I'd build another house.
This done.
Yeah, I think so.
We can get this done. Guys, I saved the best question for last. This is the grand finale question. And we've got 700 people on. Thank you, guys. Keep the comments coming. They're great ones. Definitely going to get some of those. This is the grand finale question because I think there's 200 of the 700 right now that are really aspiring. They're listening to the good, bad, and ugly of what we've talked about. And I want to ask both of you the same question, which is basically, what do we need to change? Give me one thing. What do we need to change in this sport to make it better for these rookies, right? Bill, you went through your struggles in your rookie season. Kyle, you went through yours last year. What do we need to change? Fundamentally, what do we need to change in the sport to make it a better place for rookies coming in? Bill, I want to start with you. Give me one thing. What would make it better?
I think it, like, just from my experiences, the things I've seen in all my years of being here, and I could tell you stories all night long about it. Us as a group, we've never been able to get on the same page together. We've never been able to agree on anything. I don't care what it is. We could have the color. We could have a red baseball right here in front of us, and three of us would say it's red. Three of us would say it's pink. Kyle would be saying it's maroon. You know what I mean? So
Rayburn red. Rayburn red.
With that being said, there has to come a time or a point where every one of us are on the same page. You know, they're just for the sport to move forward. Rookies, seniors, everybody has to be able to agree on the same thing. You know what I mean? And I've said this quite a few times. It's like so many times we make decisions based on our personal gain, right? Or our feelings, or, you know, like, how am I going to benefit from making this decision? Okay. You know, I've been on advisory boards for Bass. I've been in a lot of like things that talk about this kind of stuff. And just for all of us to be able to be on that same page has never been able to happen. You know what I mean? And like I said, talking about guys make the decisions based on how they're going to benefit from it, or not looking at the big picture. When I was on the advisory boards and things like that, and I'd get asked the question, I would look at, how is my decision as an individual going to affect all of us as a whole, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, honestly, I mean, we're all human beings. We want to do what's best for us and our families and things like that. But there also has to come a point where we got to say, look, like, guys, what is good for the whole group? Like, what is good for the old guys? What's good for the rookies coming in? Like, look, we're living our dream in a very fragile, like, industry. I mean, let's just face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got to tread lightly on everything that we do, because, look, it could all be gone tomorrow. So we're very fortunate to be able to do what we do. But with that being said, we all need to get on the same page, and everybody needs to pull the rope in the same direction. You know what I mean?
Well put, Bill.
Till that happens, I think we're going to be kind of like we are now.
Yeah. Good point. I think that is a big one for sure. Kyle, what do you think? That it's going to be hard to beat that one, because
that's a tough one.
I mean, I would agree with Bill 1,000%. I think we need this to happen to get to the next level, but there are some other ones.
Yeah, and that's hard to do just simply because it is an individual sport, right? That's where I think a lot of the problem is. But I think that, to piggyback off that, I think it can be solved with what we've talked about: consistency from bass. Consistency from the anglers. I mean, it's the same thing, but I think that there's so many, we're going through so many changes all the time. And it always seems like there's changes to our sport as a whole, not just Bassmaster, changes in formats, changes in, if we want to be recognized and gain traction and move forward, like, there's gotta be some sort of consistency, because without consistency, it's just, well, what sport is that? Oh, that's a sport where you weigh 500 fish in a day, and but it's bass fishing, and that's the sport. But why is the sport different over here? Right? Like, who are pros? Who are pros? Is that guy that you see with the wrap truck and bow at the Thursday nighter that only fishes the Thursday nighter? Is he a pro? Like, consistency in everything across the board. I feel like there's so much inconsistency in our sport that, or, if you want to call it a sport, I guess I would, but if we can just get more consistent across the board, I think that is the biggest problem that we have. And that goes down from the sport in general down to Bassmaster, with changing things, with anglers' opinions. Like, they're constantly changing, and that's why we can't agree on anything, because no one's consistent.
Yeah. Another great point. And I think it's they were different but the same. And here's the big thing that I love hearing from both you guys. And you guys are from different parts of the country, different walks of life, different ages, different rookie classes, and you're basically saying the same thing. And I love that, right? I'm Bill, we've hard to have unity in today's age with everything going on. In this cloud of negativity, we need unity. And we're hearing young guys and old guys and middle-aged guys from the North, guys from the South, Midwest, all collectively saying, we need this to happen right now in this sport to make it better. Not just for us, but for the next group. For these guys that are watching, we got 721 guys. These poor guys are watching. They need something better. They deserve something better. Bill, your son, my son, Vegas needs something better if they decide to do this. So I love where you guys are coming from mentally. I love the train of thought, and we got to get there. We got to get there to make it a better place for these rookies. I agree with you 100%. 100%. Guys, thank you for coming on the show tonight. Dude, I had a lot of fun. Fun talking to you guys. We got to reminisce. Yeah, we got to get in a hot tub together. That was kind of fun.
That was kind of sexy,
Yeah.
Three grown men in a hot tub going back in time, forward in time.
Out. Sorry, boys, I'm out.
I'm in.
Me and Kyle in the hot tub. Bill's in a hot tub with his wife. So
Yeah. No, I'm getting ready to go to bed because I got to get up in the morning and go work on my forward-facing sonar.
There you go. Bill, thank you for joining the show. So great to hear from you. Can't wait to see you soon on tour. And Kyle, thank you too. I know you're busy as heck too, and I appreciate you guys carving out some time for me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a blast.
You got it. We'll see you guys.
Enjoy your time off, guys.
Will do. Bye, guys. Oh, dude, that was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bill Lowen, Kyle Patrick, different ends of the rookie spectrum, but a lot of similarities in their stories. You can't deny this, guys. You can't deny this, that there's a risk in chasing this dream. There's a risk in chasing any dream, right? Any profession, any sport, anything you do in life. If it's a passion and it's worth chasing, you're going to take those risks. But in saying that, I think there's things that we need to do today to make it easier for the next group of anglers. So I hope you enjoyed this show. I had a lot of fun chatting with those guys. It was super, super awesome. And great comments coming through tonight. I definitely want to thank everybody for chiming on in. Let me remind you that Ike Live is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Head on over to abugarcia.com or check out the Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels, now available on Tackle Warehouse. Also brought to you by the Ike Foundation. Guys, if you want to get a little involved in getting some new kids fishing, I invite you to go to the ikefoundation.org. Lots and lots of great information over there on how to get new kids fishing. And that's what it's all about. Thank you guys for chiming in tonight. We will see you on the next one really, really soon. Good night, guys. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
Yeah.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you. Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U.
We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.